Now, wow, everybody, welcome. I want to welcome you. It's so great to have you here. Wow, this is really kind of exciting. One of the things I love is how in my life I have gone down the path, kicking and screaming, jumping up and down, shouting that I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to do it. You're never going to see me do it. And so, what's happening is that if you take a look at I think we've got it up on the drpatshow.com or transformationtalkradio.com. And if you go take a look at those sites, Brian, I know you're listening to the show. So your buddy Sandy Brewer is here. But if you go look, what you're looking at is sort of the culmination of a lot of people putting their heads together and figuring out how to create visual radio is what we're actually calling it, but how to do it in a way that people actually want to watch. I mean, many of you listen to me and you've been doing it for 13 years, and of course, Dr. Sandy Brewer as well. But very few of you have said, well, man, we're not seeing you at events, this and that. And so here we are. If you go to those sites and you scroll down, I think it's like in the middle of the page, you're going to actually get to watch us. But beyond being just talking heads and doing this, Jessica and the gang have literally, Justin, they're literally putting information up on the screen that tells you about the content that we're talking about. Now, if you've missed any part of this, of course, is going to be YouTube ready, I guess is what they call it. Today's show, for those of you out there that did not get the announcement, this is the secret key to creating the relationships you truly want. This is the secret key. Now, Dr. Sandy Brewer has been the host of her own show for a long time, just like I have. And today she's joining us so that we could talk about relationships. What is it about them? Why are they so tricky? And boy, I'll tell you what I learned in relationships. Think twice before you pick your anniversary date on your favorite holiday, like I did, Halloween. Think twice about that thing. And so today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. But for those of you out there, let me tell you about my friend, my colleague, Dr. Sandy Brewer. Beyond being a specialist in human behavior and relationship expert, she is somebody that never really shied away from taking a powerful message out into the world. Now, once you learn a bit about her story, which we're going to talk about a little bit today, once you learn about, the roots that had the Dr. Sandy Brewer tree grow so tall and so strong and so in service of other people, once you hear what this is about, then you're going to understand why she and I get to talk a little bit about relationships, get to joke a lot about relationships, and get to totally be where you are. So I just want to say this is a very special show for those of you out there. 1-800-930-2819. You want to dial into the show and get ready to ask your question because we've got a very special guest, a very special gift for the first caller. But the reason you want to dial in is because we're going to take your calls. We are getting ready to go into the holidays right here. And many of you are already thinking about, it's been a year since I talked to my brother. It's been a year since I talked to my cousin. It's been a year since I talked to my this, my that, my other thing. And you're thinking the year is now coming upon us and we are going to have to sit around the turkey and hopefully not have a food fight. Dr. Sandy, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pat. It is absolutely great to be here this morning.
Well, let's talk about our backgrounds a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
you've created a fabulous memoir, Pursuit of Light. But I want to talk about this for a minute
Okay.
because many of us hold back on sharing our story. We hold back on sharing our history. But I think what you and I have learned is that people are not going to relate to us.
Right.
They're so not wanting the talking head that talks out of the book. They want to know if I'm going to listen to you, you got to tell me that you've been here. What have you discovered?
I discovered the exact same thing and the exact same thing, even deeper as far as for me. If I don't share what's in my heart and and the journey, then there's something about it that I'm still hiding from in the journey. And that's not what I want for my life. And then to let real crummy stuff, apparent, seemingly really crummy stuff, have such a purposeful good that flips everything and that completely changes our point of view. It changes our reality and it changes the ability to love and operate with compassion and kindness, first for ourselves and then for others. So the terrible things that I experienced as a kid was I came through traumatic, very traumatic child abuse. I almost died more than once as a result of it. Literally died, almost died. I had my father's child when I was 13, and a few days later, I was abandoned in a foreign state, and this little baby, this innocent little baby, died in my arms. It was a tough time. How I got through it is there was a spirit in me. My parents actually tried to kill me when I was 10. And there was a spirit in me that somehow broke through the pain. And to say it talked to me isn't quite accurate, but it is actually what I experienced. And so I didn't know how to put the pieces together as a kid, but it always gave me hope.
Mm.
And I was a fortunate kid in the midst of misfortune because I had an out, and that out was school. So everybody needs somebody or something. I didn't have a somebody, but
Right.
I had a something. I could go to school and during the day create an alternate reality and know success and know, every kid wants to be popular. I could know that. And it gave me promise. But this inner voice gave me the key to hold on until I could get old enough and strong enough to find the good, to find the greater truth, because there's always something greater than the darkness. There's always something greater than the pain. And if I hadn't lived that, I wouldn't believe it, and I would be teaching it from a book, and you would know it.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm turned off. Yes. So,
Well, the reason I'm really eager to talk with you is because, I have really put off for years sitting down and really writing, you know,
uh-huh.
writing about, my life, my experience where I am today. And, it's funny because people look at us today and, I don't know how many nicknames you have, but I have a few. And the latest is somebody emailing me calling me Dr. Positivity. And I thought,
Ooh.
my God, is that even a word? Here I am writing about my book. My book title is called Descent into Consciousness. And I had a book agent say to me, well, no, 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 that was ascent. You ascended. I said, no, no, I didn't ascend. I descended. I went down to discover. Why is it so hard for us, especially in the spiritual world, in the spiritual community, to come forth and talk about the fact that maybe, going down is a way to go up?
It to me it's like it's where the elevator is. So if I hadn't gone all the way down, and going all the way down means stop running away from the pain. If I hadn't been able to turn toward the pain and walk through it so I could reframe it, I would never have found the elevator or the elevator button. So you have to go so deep that all these things that will chase us if we don't get to the core of them, we get there, we are able from that place to change the brain, to transform the point of view, and there's the elevator, and it leads us straight into the sunshine, straight into the light. And then that recognition that this life, as difficult as it can be from time to time, it really is not about pain and suffering. It's about exploration and discovery. And we go through certain levels of pain and suffering because maybe that was our soul's agenda, not so that we would hurt as people, but
Mhm.
because there was a truth we wanted to find so much greater than the collective illusion of the darkness.
I love
And
this.
that leads us to it.
Yeah, I love this. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're talking about the secret key to creating the relationships you truly want. And this is really an important topic. For those of you out there, you're listening to this and you're thinking, wait a minute, I don't really I know I wanna have a relationship, I don't know what it is, but I know I'm not having a good time trying to figure it out. I'm wondering if I should really be with this person or not be with this person, and what is the battle that's going on inside of us here about this? Why isn't it just like in the movies? Why isn't it like, "Oh, you complete me." Yeah. Let's take a short break when we come back. Why are relationships so tough? Why are they so tough? When we come back, Dr. Sandy Brewer is in the house. Phone lines are open for your questions. 1-800-930-2819. First caller, first question, we've got a gift for you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. you can find out more about my very special co host today, Dr. Sandy Brewer. Just go to the website, sandybrewer.com, and you will find out. We're talking about relationships today for those of you that are wondering, what are these people talking about today? And we've opened up the phone lines. If you are getting ready for the holidays, if you're wondering, how am I going to get through it? What do I do? This show is a Q&A for you. 1-800-930-2819. And by the way, you can go ahead and take a look at Sandy's website. And by the way, the first two callers calling with questions, you're going to receive the signed copy of Sandy's powerful book, Pursuit of Light. Sandy, let's get into this. I made a joke before, which was
Mhm.
actually the truth. And it was about, don't pick your favorite holiday. Do not pick the favorite holiday as your anniversary date. Now, clearly, when that happened, I did not think. Now, I have two favorites. There are two favorite days I love, and one of them is April 1st. I love April Fool's Day. Yep, that anniversary date I'm really okay with. But for many people, we go and we do this, and then if things don't turn out really well, it becomes an issue. Why are we struggling in relationships? Why the heck are they so tough?
Well, the reason, from my point of view, that relationships are so hard is because all relationships are based on the relationship we have with ourselves. And so, what we do is we are mirroring. So, we pick a relationship that will, if we don't, I'm going to rephrase this, if we don't like ourselves at that core level. If there's some place in us that has a fear or that has a doubt or feels unlovable or feels insecure, we are going to pick a relationship that mirrors that back to us. And so, what we really do is we have a hidden agenda in most relationships. That's the way we try to mold our partners instead of unfold the relationship. And we want them to do for us what we need to do for ourselves. And so it doesn't mean that you don't have a point. It doesn't mean that your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, your partner isn't doing exactly what you think they're doing. But it's the old metaphor of put your oxygen mask on first. Because if you go into a reaction, you're not going to be able to make your point. You're going to be through the talking and seeing through the lens of a reaction. So you've both found that lowest common denominator. So if I pause before I jump all over the other person, if I pause before I open my mouth, that was one of the biggest things I had to teach myself. Just shut up, please. Just for a minute. You can talk later, but that kept me from having to make so many amends the next day. And it wasn't that I wouldn't have a proper thing to say, it was that I wouldn't be able to say it appropriately. So if I have a relationship with myself, if I look to see this just happened, and yes, he or she really did do just what I'm saying they're doing, but I want to know why I'm getting mad or wanting to get even instead of communicate. What's making me want to fire back?
Yeah.
And if I'll go inside and find out what my trigger is, then I have a new point of view. And our reality is not carved in stone. It's not based on the facts. It's based on our point of view about the facts.
Mm.
So I can't even set a healthy boundary when I'm exploding all over the place, or if I'm totally withdrawn. There's no way that I can set a healthy boundary. So if I will be willing to know myself, and I don't know if we have time for this story, but I'm going to make
Yeah,
it
go
real,
ahead. We have
real
plenty of time.
short.
Yeah, go ahead.
When my husband and I'm very fortunate because in my day I practiced on other people. Sorry about that, but it got me to where I needed to go. And and John is my husband. We've been together for 34 years. He's amazing, and we're blessed with this great, beautiful connection and relationship. But we were living together before we got married 34 years ago,
Hmm.
and there was one time I don't even know what got under my skin, but I at that time would turn into I would just be an iceberg. It would be like, don't even think about touching me. It's like dry ice. You're going to get burnt. So we John and I was upset about something, and John and I had to pass in the hall. We were each going in some direction. We passed in the hall, and he reached out to touch me, and I just shook him off like that. And he looked at me with those beautiful blue eyes that he has and said, "Please, please don't do that to me." And
Mm,
I knew what his background was, and I knew what where he had come from, where that caused such a searing pain inside of him. And it got my attention, so it made me learn another way to do it. And I actually, that from that point on, I forced myself to learn how to say, this is not about you. My reaction, my trigger here is not about you. It's my issue. But I need to talk about it. I'm not trying to say you made it happen. I'm just saying I'm trying to explain what's happening to me.
yeah,
And it shifted everything for
yeah,
me because it taught me how to deal with that explosive emotion that I had inside of me instead of just blurting it out and
yeah.
getting it on somebody. And it taught John and I how to actually talk through difficult things without reacting to difficult things. So it was a blessing I was given that day.
I want to ask you about this because many people listening may be thinking, wow, okay, this has to do with just husband, wife, or partner, partner, or whatever. But no, I mean, friendships. I have the same issue as John, to be frank with you. I mean, this is me. And what I react to, first of all, I react to yelling. That I don't
Mm-hmm.
do really well with. I react to yelling and yelling. And, there have been moments in my life where I've actually done that back, but it's not that often. But what I really react to is, okay, now I've given you some feedback about how it's affecting me, and you leave. You either got to hang up, you got to walk out of the room, and you got to go. And there's something about that that I think we see a lot in our society today. You and I are talking about a physical interaction, but it happens in social media now. It's happening, people are so easy to kind of lash out, boom, 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 and then they walk away and you don't hear from them. And so I want to talk when we come back about how this scenario relationship is really exacerbated by our inability to really not even understand that we're reacting in that way, but also getting a sense that that is also now transferred into technology, into
It
social
is.
media, into Skype. I mean, just because you think you can hang up on somebody in Skype and it doesn't have the same effect, that is really a misunderstanding as well. It might be technology, but we have so depersonalized this stuff. When we come back, Dr. Sandy Brewer is going to take us on a journey. We're going to take a look at what is it? What are the secrets to this? What can we learn? And what can we do to change? Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. The secret key to creating the relationships you truly want with Dr. Sandy Brewer joining me here today. For those of you that are just tuning in, phone lines are open and also are instant messaging. If you call in 1-800 930 2819 and you got a question for us, we will gladly give you a copy, autographed copy of Sandy's fabulous book. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about what the key is. And I was sharing something during the break. I know we're going to talk about relationships that even go beyond, being in relationship with the spouse or a partner or whatever, but siblings, friendships. And I was telling you that we build relationships of all kinds. And you were talking about the fact that sometimes when things happen, there are things that are going on underneath. Now, what is what I'm about to say have anything to do with it? I'm watching one of my favorite shows, The Walking Dead. Yes, folks, I watch The Walking Dead, but I don't watch it live because I'm just not around to do it. Now, without giving out any information, I was shocked at what happened in that show. I was shocked at who is no longer going to be with us. And I'm telling you, I cried. And you asked me about what it was. And I said to you was, this guy was a good guy. He's really a good guy throughout the entire years of following this. And of course, I'm part of the comic book craze. And so now we're talking about, well, wait a minute, Pat, what is it about you? What would, I mean, come on, it's a zombie thing. And yet it affects us. And in our culture today, Sandy, things like this that we're so plugged into affect us. Social media, unfriending people, saying something crazy on Twitter, whatever that is, issues of abandonment. There's so much now. Is there really a key?
Yeah, there absolutely is. It is to be. I mean, I know this is going to sound a little airy fairy, but it's absolute bottom line that it's essential that we quit wanting something or someone outside of us to make us whole, to validate us, to make us okay. It doesn't mean we never get hurt feelings, like you crying at the disappointment, if nothing else, of a favorite character, because films and movies and TV shows are designed to get us a little emotionally involved. I so understand. I used to cry at the end of Make Room for Daddy things when everybody would come together, and what it really, I didn't know it at the time, but what it really was my loss of family, of ever having had that in my life. So when we start rooting for something on an emotional level, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean we never get hurt feelings. It means we know how to frame them more quickly. The more we're aware that there's an inner trigger also. We can still disagree, but there's an inner trigger. I think I told you that I thought Hollywood and the rest of it is a little addicted to twisted or sad endings. So but in social media, in this place where we think we have the right to talk anyway to anybody and then to just walk away like we're so arrogant that that's an okay thing, that is really, really, really lower consciousness.
Mm.
And so it's it's important for us to be able to learn how to detach from that, to not give our power. If somebody wants to operate there, if I don't live there anymore, and this isn't even pejorative, it means this is not a match. If I don't live there anymore, that person, that comment, that whatever has no power over me. It's hard to unring the bell, but it's our job to do that, to be able to say, that's not about them, that's about me. If with all the things I've been privileged to do in my life, when my body is done, when it is time for me to leave this planet, because I'm 72, no, not going anywhere yet, but but ultimately when my time is done, the way I feel now, the thing I will be the most grateful for inside of me is that through this life, I learned how to be kind, because kindness is the action of love. And I just don't deal with the other part. It's not that I don't observe it, it makes me very sad, but I don't. included in my personal life. And if somebody wants to do that, that's not my business unless they're hurting an innocent one. I wouldn't recommend anybody hurt a child in front of me. But if unless that's
Yeah, me
going on,
either.
yeah,
Yeah, me
no,
either.
we
Yeah,
have an
don't
army of
do
us
that.
who will get in the way, right?
Right,
But
right.
if they're just being jerky and and that doesn't involve me, I wish them, I just try to keep releasing them to their greatest and highest good. And that's not between that person and me, that's between that person and their spirit. But if they want to be a part of my world, the answer is no.
Mhm.
And and that would include, it fortunately doesn't include any of my native family because I don't have any other family but my native family, and they're fabulous. Or the family I created, they're fabulous, and I'm very blessed that way. But if a sibling constantly went to an attacking place, if a parent was constantly went to an attacking place, and there was no effective way to mediate that,
Mhm.
that would not be something I would be willing to do. And I think those of us who have been through really hard times had to get really strong with those boundaries to be able to say, this is not part, this is an experience. An experience is only a place through which we travel.
Oh.
It's not who we are. So this is part of a past experience, but I don't live there. I live over here, and I'm happy to have you join me, but I am not joining you.
Mm.
And that's the place where we say, do you know, if someone needs to act, I'm trying not to use language that shouldn't be on a radio, but if someone needs to act like in a really base, ignorant manner, I disagree with them. And if I'm speaking on that subject, I will speak strongly on it.
Mm.
But I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to participate in that behavior. I'm not going to join it. I'm
Right.
going, so I'm going to advocate for what I care about. I care about kindness. I care about healing. I'm not going to go and try to change somebody's mind ever, but I'm certainly not going to try to change somebody's mind who doesn't want to be changed, because that's lack of openness is just ignorance.
Yeah. I want to talk about anger for a minute if we could, because as you was speaking, I was really struck by this is, and I have seen anger in people that are close to me that I just am, I'm just, I'm in awe about, what happens when people just go off on a tangent. And it's not that I mean, I come from this place where I had to learn, many, many years ago that justified anger is really non-existent. I mean, what am I going to know about this idea of justified anger that is so not true? What is it about this idea that we think we're justified to be angry about something or justified to be resentful about something that the other people don't really care? We're the ones that really become part of the energy, the actual destructive energy of
It
that.
is
Can you
destructive.
talk to that, please, for a minute? Because we
Absolutely.
think we're so right. We're
I
so
was My personal experience with righteous anger, justified anger, righteous anger. I got to the place of 28, and I started in this process, this internal process of healing. And the first thing I came across, and the first understanding that I had, was I had to give up righteous anger. And I thought that was so tragic because I felt it was the only thing I was truly good at. So it's like, okay, you can't use that anymore because it's a bluff, it's a defense, it's a bully tactic. It never comes from wisdom, it never comes from intelligence, and it never comes from a centered point of view. So the place that I have developed in my life and that I feel is strong and good for all of us is that if somebody wants to lose it, that's their business. But you can't do it in front of me.
mm,
You can't do it in my home. You can't do it in my space. And if you're in a relationship, whether it's a family dinner, Thanksgiving's coming up, whether it's a primary relationship, the idea is people will stay and duke it out. If you stay and duke it out, we have one person in a seventh grade schoolyard acting like a bully and immature. If you stay and duke it out, now we've got two people in a seventh grade schoolyard. I call it the jerk ring, acting like jerks. Do you know? And it doesn't. It's not going to get you anywhere. Eventually, you'll exhaust yourselves and go on. So I think the boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, because you care about you. Again, looking into look in the mirror, look into the your eyes in the mirror, and just stay there until the eyes don't just you can talk to the eyes, but then wait, don't leave it until the eyes talk back to you.
Yeah.
Let them, because they will tell you how treasured you are. They will tell you how loved you are. And if we start to know that, then I've gone all the way what we were talking about earlier in the show. I've gone descended to the bottom of the floor and come up to the elevator button, that I face that deepest fear, that rejection that we've both known, that so many people have known in their lives, that really had nothing to do with me. It certainly was an experience, and it was a tough experience, but it isn't who I am. And so now I can look it square in the eye and say, no, that isn't me. And there's the elevator button. Now I can come up and walk out into the sunshine. If I join it, I can still do that eventually, but I've gotten all that all over me. And then I became it. So now I need 2 or 3 or 4 showers. And then I'm still going to have to face what made me want to join that person that I so disagree with. That
Mm,
person didn't have what we want. So why would we go there? It's
yeah.
on. I often say to people, why are you fighting? And it isn't not why are you disagreeing, or why is that wrong, whatever's happening to you, why are you fighting about it? Make a choice.
Mm.
Choice empowers. Clarity empowers.
And that's really what we're talking about, because it's a, isn't this fascinating? Because I know you work with people, and I've worked with people for years, and even in a casual conversation, that level of anger, just talking about a person and how they act, you can see the temperature just rise. It
Mm-hmm.
just rises, 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 and for people to walk up to you when you're like that and say, honey, why don't you just let go of that? Why don't you just let go of that? I mean, folks are not really quite able to do that. The whole idea of letting you just let go of it. And so
Yeah,
looking for another way to get at it.
I don't think if anybody could just let go of it, they would. You know I would have. So,
I
but
know.
I think certainly as a counselor, what I will say to people to get their attention is feel with your body. Tell me what's happening now. Feel with your pulse. Feel with your heart. Feel with your anxiety. Feel with your breathing. What's happening to your body right now? That's a sign that you're completely out of center. It doesn't mean that you don't have a point. It's before you can express your point, you're going to have to get into a more empowered place. And the more empowered place is the center of the magnet. That's the most powerful spot on the magnet. So we have to bring ourselves back into equanimity and use physical symptoms, use the body to help us know this is that I'm off. It's not that I'm off because I have a point. I'm off because I'm reacting to the point. So how do I help myself so that I can respond to the point and make my point? And and I think I'm a counselor, so I get by with that all the time.
Hmm.
Over dinner, that's not the easiest thing to say. I always try to come up with everybody wants to be heard. So if someone's building steam, 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 instead of trying to talk them out of it, I think if I were there, I would want somebody to just say to me, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that this is so hard. And I understand that it is. Not once did you agree with the behavior,
Right.
but everybody wants to be heard. So when we hear that there's something going on behind this buildup of steam, and see if that person is open to compassion, and without layering it on like compassion, without uh, uh, putting them down or patronizing them in any way. Just a genuine, I hear you. I always try to think, have I ever felt that way?
Oh,
Well, if I have, then I know exactly how it feels, and that was uncomfortable. So I can say to them, I'm sorry, that's such a hard place to be.
Boy, it is. I'll tell you it is. Because you know why? We have been there. We have been
Exactly.
there. We have been there. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Dr. Sandy Brewer in the house. When we come back, we're going to get some tips on what do we do about this. You know, just right before you're going to pick that turkey leg and throw it right across the table, you might want to stop for a little bit and think about that. You know, if you're part of my Italian family, lots of food fights. We'll be right back.
Now I know what I have found.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. If you want to find out more about us, go to the drpatshow.com or transformationtalkradio.com. If you want to find out more about Sandy, go to sandybrewer.com. Sandy, can you take a moment, tell folks how they can get a copy of the book? And also, you know, people that would like to work with you or find out more about you, what's the best way for people to contact you?
The best way is to go to the website. You can get the book quickly there. You can get it on Amazon, but I think you get it cheaper at the website. So
Okay.
go to the website. And on the website is all the information, all the contact information. So I would love to hear from you. It's great.
Yeah, let's talk about some solutions now for this. I was referring to, my experience of watching somebody go from 0 to 120 like a crazy person, almost as if there's no control out of, putting themselves around people that just get under their belt. And I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, what can folks do to kind of really step back from that before that even happens?
Well, sometimes what you said is absolutely right. It happens so quickly
Yeah.
that you don't even notice it, and suddenly we're there. So I still, there's nothing you can do when someone is swinging that far out, and you try to intervene. It's only going to make them more aggressive.
Mm,
You can try the diffusing tactic of, "I hear you. Tell me what you need. Tell me what's going on." But if somebody just wants to go into that bully role, that controlling role, that kind of semi non-clinically insane but really technically insane place, I think it's really important in that moment that the room doesn't join.
mm,
That let him or her stand alone. And if they leave, they leave. But don't join them. Go on, like some messaging needs to be able to say, "I'm sorry, but you can't control this dinner. You
mm,
can't control the room." When we go at them or try to talk them out of it, once those diffusing techniques are used and are ineffective, which they can very well be in the moment, once that happens, or if they won't, if maybe one person can say, "Come on, John, come into the kitchen, let's talk." If that person won't do that, then if there's 8 or 10 people around the table, then it needs to be, "We welcome you, but you can't stay here and do that."
mm,
And
mm.
then just nobody respond to him. Then ask your mom or your sister or whoever or your friend, you know, talk about the turkey leg that somebody wants to throw. Say, "This is the greatest turkey leg I've ever had in my life. Thank you for fixing it."
Yeah,
Change the subject.
yeah,
And the other person might not stop immediately, but I promise you, 9 times out of 10, this will work. They may not change immediately, but eventually, when nobody plays, then you're not that much fun anymore.
yeah. You know,
It's
one of the things I want to ask you about is, for people listening, they're probably saying, we would never do that. But there's something that you said earlier in the show I really want to make sure we talk about. And it's this whole passive aggressive stuff. Maybe you're thinking, we never throw the turkey leg, but probably that turkey is probably frozen over from the chill. But people don't understand what passive aggressive behavior is. And I wonder if you could just touch upon it for a little bit because it's important to see that too.
I think passive aggressive is really important to see. And passive aggressive is basically the turn of the screw, the stab right in the gut with a smile on your face. Do
Ugh.
you know? And that is so painful and so really more obvious than the person who's doing it thinks, because they're doing it with "I'm the nice person." And again, I think it's okay to say that was hurtful. It's okay to address it once, but especially in a group, not let that behavior take over the group, because group consciousness is interesting. You start to tilt over this way, and we get the whole group going there. So it only takes one to hold the center, and then you're going to draw more people towards you. That says, okay, there may be a disagreement, that person, and also to be able to understand, if Molly, I made up Molly, if
Yeah.
Molly is a passive aggressive person, Molly is going to do those things at the dinner. Are you going to empower that, or are you going to not let her take over the dinner? Or George is the passive
Yeah.
aggressive one. Are you going to reinforce that by getting really all weepy and sad because George is that way? And just know that's George's limitation, and in private be able to say to George, "That was hurtful,
Yeah.
and I would like you to be aware of that." And then if George keeps doing it, you ultimately decide if that works for you. But I just think that don't let the person who's using this arsenal This, and it really is an emotional arsenal.
Yeah,
Don't let them take over the holiday. And so often they do, because we accidentally go down to the lowest common denominator.
I know. And if all else fails, I'll tell you what, I have a great supply of them. You go get yourself a little red clown nose and put it on your nose at the dinner table, and clearly you will get a different response,
Exactly.
mostly.
Lighten, that's a perfect thing, Pat. It just lightens the whole thing.
Does.
Don't, and at those kind of group things, don't try to solve
Oh,
decades old problems.
oh,
Let's just try to have a nice dinner. So maybe everybody should keep a supply of clown noses in their
clown
pockets.
noses.
I think that's a good idea.
Exactly.
I think
Sandy,
that's
thank you
great.
for your time
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you for joining me. For those of you out there, sandybrewer.com, go ahead and check it out. For those of you tuning us in here, you can go to transformationtalkradio.com or the Dr. Pat Show, Twitter, the Dr. Pat Show, Facebook, the Dr. Pat Show. Sandy, thank you so very much.
Thank you very, very much, Pat. I had a good time.
All right, everybody. Good time here in the old town tonight. We'll see you next time.
Hey, ladies, all clear.